Okay, and we're live. Hey everyone, welcome to Draftbit's Office Hours live stream. We do this every Friday. It's great to see you all here. As a reminder, what we do in these live streams, we start out by talking about what's new at Draftbit, just kind of demo a few things that have been new since the last time we met, and then we'll take some Q&A. Our stream is like a few seconds ahead of the social channel, so pop your questions and comments into the chat of your platform of choice, and we'll get to them sort of asynchronously. So pop those in and we'll get to your questions when we can. And then I'm super excited about who we've got with us today. Peter, who's a co-founder and CTO of Draftbit. Peter has been working with the team at Draftbit on getting our direct integration with Google Firebase implemented. We're still banging away on it, but we've got things in a place where we can show you. So Peter's going to demo some stuff and kind of get you excited about what's coming with Firebase. I expect it to be, well, it'll probably be perfect, but I'll just mention that it could be a little raw just because we're still working with like staging branches and local branches and stuff like that. But yeah, there's some really cool stuff that's happened this week, and we're excited to show it to you. So yeah, again, pop your questions and comments into the chat, and we'll get to them as we can. I should have mentioned also, he's become a mainstay in our stream, and so sometimes I forget to mention that Aman is also with us. Aman produces most of the content that Draftbit generates, and he's a React Native. I'm going to call you a React Native influencer because if you are in React Native and you don't know Aman, then there's probably something wrong with you.
I like that tag. I'll add to my bio description.
All right, so everyone say what's up to Aman. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm just going to talk about a few things that are new with Draftbit this week. Okay, so the first thing that I want to mention that's new with Draftbit is we've relaunched a new version of our community. So if you had gone to community.draftbit.com in the past, you would have been in like a user community that was like basically a bunch of discussion forums. We've relaunched community, and discussion is still pretty important to our community. But what we try to do with this new version of the community is just consolidate a bunch of the resources that lived on various other parts of the web. And so in this Ask for Help section, you can still chat with other users and get help on your app. But we've also moved our product announcements into this community as well. So you can see a feed of all of the things that we've released. And we're also working on moving a bunch of our tutorials and knowledge base into the community as well, which is super exciting because now you don't have to go to tutorials.draftbit.com to get access to these tutorials. And then if you're Draftbit, you know that we work a lot with beta testers. And so we've got these private groups that are like invite only so for instance, this code beta, you can apply to be a beta tester of these various features. And if you get accepted into the beta, then you get early access to the feature. And you get to be in this private channel where you discuss and learn. Custom code is a super exciting one because custom code allows you to bring a lot of outside code into Draftbit. So like right now, Aman is working with some users on how to use the camera component to send photos that you take with your device to various services. So that's super exciting. So the community is single sign-on enabled, so you don't need a new username and password to join the community. Just go to community.draftbit.com and click login, and your Draftbit account will log you in. If you don't have a Draftbit account, you can get a free Draftbit account at draftbit.com. Cool, so that's the community. Let's show you a few things that are new at Draftbit. I may have demoed earlier versions of some of these things in the past, so if some of this looks familiar, I may have demoed it in the past. Something that's kind of cool is that you can now double click on components on the canvas. and you can add them directly in line. So this text component I have being fed by data, but if I wanted to change it to something, not hello world, but hello world, I can now live edit it directly in the canvas. So that's pretty cool. I'm gonna change this back. Oops. Another cool new feature is I just put a video about this on our YouTube channel, but in the if you are familiar with the build that we're doing with this coffee app, you know that the data that feeds this coffee screen comes from a tab that lists all of the coffees that I've got in my Airtable backend. But then the name of the roaster is a linked record in Airtable, and it comes from a different tab in my Airtable database. So we just released some smarter like data schema indexing that allows you to reference these things. And so long story short is you can now, in databases like Airtable, you can now reference other fields that are linked in a particular database across tabs. So this roaster name lives in a different tab and is linked into my coffee tab. And it used to be that I wouldn't be able to display this on my screen, but with this new feature, now you can. So definitely check that out. There's a demo on YouTube. We call the feature nested strings in arrays, and it's pretty great. I think that's all I want to mention today. Am I missing anything, guys? I don't think I am. Quiet chat today. No questions from our viewers today. If you do have questions for the team, please post them in your YouTube or Facebook or Twitter stream, and we'll get to them. Peter, how are you feeling about getting started on this demo?
Oh, super good. I was just setting something up so we can have something fun to mess around with.
Oh, okay. So you've already gotten started. All right, cool. So yeah, keep those questions coming. And in the meantime, I'm going to kick it over to Peter. Peter, I'm going to turn on your screen sharing.
Sure.
So we can now all see your browser window. If you wouldn't mind just making that maybe a little bit wider and then potentially like increasing the magnification a little bit. Sweet. Oh, that's super easy to see.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. All right, over to Peter. Kick it off for us.
Okay, so bear with me. My Firebase example data is pretty poopy right now, but a lot of really cool things to go over. So for starters, Firebase is happening. Yay. We have this new tab here, Firebase on the right-hand side, that allows you to fetch in a collection or a document, and then also enable user, right? So authentication is going to be a part of this. And we fixed a lot of things along the way to make this easier for you. For example, being able to nest your list items that are coming back from Firebase really, really easily. So, like I said, like this is my broken Firebase setup. Don't worry about it. When we launch this officially, you'll have something really nice and clean to play around with. This is just me as a developer messing around with things. So anyway, when you set up a Firebase thing, you'll now be able to set up a hook top level on the screen. Before, you'd have to drop in a fetch component, no longer necessary. And surprise, surprise, we've done the same thing with REST up here. You'll now have a use hook component that you can use alongside with it, or still drop fetch when it's necessary. So something that folks have been really excited about, and we did. So when you want to set up Firebase, you go through the process of hooking it up through the data and services panel. You'll see connect your Firebase data store down here. You'll click it. You'll go through of copying your config snippet, which is coming from this Firebase config, right? You just copy this over, paste it into here. That's it. The next step is your service account file. that belongs under project settings, service accounts. Click create service account here or generate new private key, download that file, and then all you have to do is drag it over from your browser here, and then we take care of the rest. Once Firebase is connected, you'll see the option to see all of your available collections, menus, restaurants, and users. So if I add something new, we totally support that. This is all Firestore, right? So if I want to add a new collection called Friends, for example, friend name, let's do Nick here, right? You add this collection, all you have to do is click refresh, and that automatically shows up here as something that you can do. Okay, cool. So now Firebase is connected into my app. It already was, but we went through the process again. If you want your data to show up on your screen, you'd click the screen container here, right, which is my blank screen. Go to the data tab in the top right corner, click on Firebase, and then click on collection for any list item. Firebase has this idea of documents and collections. A collection is a collection of documents. So a document is an individual piece. For example, this row here of just San Diego with whatever restaurant thing is an individual document, and a collection is a list of all of those together, in case you were wondering. So you go to collection, you choose the collection that you want to render, you choose whether you want your user to be enabled. So imagine if you had the ability to like something and save it. That's what enable user allows you to do. You go into your list, you choose where you want that data to come from. Sometimes you might see REST or Firebase or Fetch or whatever. In this case, we want this coming from Firebase, so that's already selected for us. You drop in a view to create a simple row, and then under data, you'll see source type. So I think Nick's gone over this, but I'll just go over it again. You'll now have the ability to set a static or remote or a data source type. I know a lot of folks were using something in a data-driven screen, but still wanted to place a static image. So you're allowed to do that now. Okay. Under the source tab, you'll see the list items that you want. You can set anything from, your Airtable API key to anything else that comes back from your Firebase API. So if you're wondering, for those of you that haven't used Firebase, where does city name, photo, price, category come from? Well, they're all the available fields that I have on this Firebase setup that I've got, right? So I just select one and then it automatically renders. Same goes for text. Text, we've got this really exciting feature I know a lot of you will really like. So now you'll be able to inline multiple variables together in one spot. So images, if you recall, work the same way as text in production today, where you only get to map it to one type of field. Now imagine being able to do something like my favorite restaurant in city, right? So what this will do is render your static text next to your dynamic text. And you can add as many variables as you like here, right? So add the price. Oops, I added a third thing here. It automatically maps to the price, right? And you can just build really, really cool dynamic features this way. I'll stop talking there. Aman and Nick, what do you all think?
I think it's great. I love this feature of integrating all the text and picking up the values from REST API or Firebase.
Yeah, I remember back in a live stream, maybe in November or December, we built this screen that was, do you remember the Spotify year in review thing that they did, where they showed you how many songs you listen to, how many genres, etc. And it was like an Instagram style story. And we built an example screen. I think that example screen now lives in our example screen library, but it was like you listen to number new genres and so many songs or whatever. We had to make that we had to fake that out because you couldn't do data-driven text within static text. So I might actually have to go back and update that screen now because we have that available.
Yeah, it's a super cool feature. It makes the experiences and you can do very powerful by just adding variables that automatically appear, right? So I know our users are going to be so excited about this because it's stuff that you can't do anywhere.
It's awesome, super powerful.
Yeah, and so all the other experiences that you know and love with the way that we've been doing with REST, like being able to pass, being able to tap on this row and taking it to another screen, all that stuff still works the same. We are very close to be able to support updates in Firebase too. So being able to, create your own restaurant and have it automatically appear on the screen. One of the things that we've been able to accomplish with Firebase is if I have a list of data showing up here, as I add more data into Firebase, it will automatically show up. So let me demo that for you. So if I added a new restaurant name, let's call it N and A's, Nick and Amant, we'll add I think the field called photo, right? Let's do 11 here. Category, gourmet. I don't know if that's a restaurant category, but now you see N and A's, right, showing up here. So somewhere in this list, we will see. That's the one thing I didn't think about is, okay, where it would show up. But trust me that it is there somewhere. Or maybe I'm not using, it's because I'm not using, a lot of these don't have the names. Anyway, trust me, it's there. So the cool thing that I'm trying to show off that I totally brain farted on.
You have to define it in the variables, I think.
Pardon?
If you go to the text component, I think you have to still map it to the variable in
Firebase.
Firebase.
Yeah, good call. Thank you, Nick. Oh yeah, there it is. NNAs in gourmet, right? So now let's do that again. Or let's say we add a, so what else do we have? Price and category. So category gourmet, price is something like this. Like you'll automatically see that show up in your list, right? You saw that? If we want to call it, just to drive this home, burgers, right? So Nick and Aman's burger shows up right here, right? So it's all live, it's all up to date. It makes your experiences really cool. It also will unlock things like real-time messaging and exciting things that we're thinking about doing in the future.
That's awesome. So we have a question from Twitter from Steve that I'm going to get to in a second. And Peter, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but are we able to do things yet with Firebase where either, I'm thinking of a couple of things. One is can we write data from a Draftbit app into the Firestore? Can we create new documents? Maybe we could show that if so.
Yeah.
And also, actually, I'm gonna bring up Steve's question from Twitter here. Steve wants to know if you can do calculations with the data or format a date time. I think Steve's asking about this inline text stuff.
Yeah.
But maybe, I don't know, I think I would, if I was going to do calculations, I might choose to do that on the server rather than on the client. But I don't know what you think about that question.
Yeah, so good question. I'll answer the first one first. Being able to update or create documents with Firebase, that is currently in a pull request right now, something that we are testing literally as we speak. So expect it to go out whenever the rest of this stuff goes out. If you are interested, we are slowly inviting folks into our Firebase beta on Circle. Like Nick mentioned at the beginning, it's an all SSO. So correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, it's community.draftbit.com, click Firebase, and fill out the type form to be a part of that, right?
You got it. Community.draftbit.com, go to the Firebase channel, click the button, request access. You're not guaranteed to get in. That's one thing I'll mention. So the more descriptive you can be about what you want to use Firebase for, the more likely you are to be invited.
Yeah. We're looking for real use cases, right? So if you're just interested in messing around with Firebase today, in the current beta that we're in, we really want folks that are serious about using Draftbit and Firebase because it helps us build a better system. So eventually this will be available to everybody in a couple of weeks, but right now, as we are testing, we just want to make sure that we have the experience right. So if you do have a real use case that you're working on, you've got a much higher chance of being part of that initial beta. Now, to answer Steve's question, I think it's a really great one, being able to format stuff like dates, I'm assuming, right? So, Nick, the thing that Steve is talking about is when you do save a date in your server, it looks something like, 5 to T, like this, right? So that's not necessarily a formatable date. You probably want to do something like, format date, or format date. This isn't going to work, obviously, but being able to do something like this. No, today you are not able to do that, but in the future you will be. So we understand this is a need people want to be able to do. So abstracting the stuff that in these variables and running expressions on it is something that we're thinking about. Now, we're not working on it just yet because Firebase is absolutely the priority, but expect that to happen soon. If you want us to prioritize it over a couple other things, feel free to upvote it on our Canny, create an issue, upvote it, and it'll definitely prioritize it ahead of some of the other things that we have in the pipeline.
Okay, awesome. And just for those of you who are interested in that, the Canny that Peter mentioned is at roadmap.draftbit.com. I'll post this in the chat. Roadmap.draftbit.com. You can either create new feature requests or you can upvote existing ones. We pay a lot of attention to this, so definitely check out roadmap.draftbit.com. Peter, what about things like, do we have yet the ability to navigate to an item view from this list view? Can we do that? Can we pass the document ID yet?
We should be able to. Hold on, let's see here. So that's also in a pull request as we speak. We realized that was a little brain fart on our part last night, and David, one of our engineers, was able to fix it. That's going through the process of being launched and ready to go. So by the time people use it, call it Monday or later today or whatever, you'll definitely have ID. So you can pass data, you can pass any other Firebase field for now. The reason why, for anybody that's a little more technical, the reason why it didn't work immediately is because Firebase does not expose this.
I think my feed froze or Peter's froze. I can't tell which. Come on, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I think Peter's froze.
Okay, so the Peter's feed froze. We temporarily lost you, Peter, but I think maybe you're back.
Yeah, let me know. I see the little red dots. Sorry.
You were just mentioning that Firebase doesn't expose the document ID by default like the REST APIs do.
Yeah, can you all hear me? I might just send Nick the comment.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway. Okay, yeah, I can hear you all. If you all feel like I get disconnected again, just let me know. Maybe my my time here will be short-lived. But anyway, to be more direct, yes, you will be able to pass IDs into your next screen and be able to set stuff up like that in the future.
That's awesome. Cool. What else? Is there anything else that you want to show off with Firebase, Peter, to get people excited?
I think the last big thing is, let's see if I can whip it up with my internet connection here. If you connect Firebase, let's see if I add a text input. Let's do 2 text inputs and a button. I think I've got all the right things that I need here. So, get started. Firebase, create a user with email. Are you all still with me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're going to drop in 2 text inputs. We're going to set the field name to email in this one. We're going to set the password here on this one. We're going to make this a password field, right? So when I type stuff in, it looks like that. We're actually in the process of making some of our components a little prettier and have better defaults, so look out for that soon. So we're going to add a create user and password. Whoops. Maybe I broke something. Okay, there we go. Email and password. So now let's drop in a text just as an example here. I know we only have a couple minutes left, so I'm being quick. Please feel free to.
Have plenty, you have plenty of time. We go for another 30 minutes, so
okay, cool.
You actually don't have to rush. Maybe you could tell everyone what you're doing. It looks like you're setting up off.
Yeah, sorry. So I totally spaced out there. I thought we had 3 minutes left. Okay, I'll slow down. So what I'm doing here, and I'm just going to style these a little bit while I'm talking. What I'm doing here is I'm setting up a login form, right? So being able to put in your email and password, logging you in and showing you like the user ID or whatever you're looking for. Does that make sense? Anything else worth throwing in there that I might be forgetting about?
No, I got super excited when you said email and password because I thought I knew what you were up to, and I kind of saw this working yesterday, but it sounds like maybe it is now working. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, this is my local, so there might be some broken thing here, but bear with me. It'll be fine. Okay. So yeah. So we go in here. We enable the user. And what that does in the code gen is you can see like email, set email, password, set password, right? Like exactly what a developer would write for their code, right? Then we also have a use auth state hook, which supports sign in with email and password, right? And create user with email and password, right? This is exactly what a developer would write, y'all. So if you are, struggling to figure out how all this stuff works, Draftbit is a great way to look through the code and see what we've done, right? So take a look at some of the examples. I think you'd be really excited to see that we are trying to stick to code that developers write and ship to make it look like a senior developer wrote it, obviously. Anyway, so now inside this action we have Firebase create with email and password. That will mean here we will have a user UID or whatever. Let's do this here too. It keeps adding one of these things. I'm gonna have to fix that. So now user UID and user email. None of these fields exist right now because I haven't logged in. But if I do helloworld@gmail.com and Draftbit hello world, right? When I tap that now, it should. Oops, I got to do it in this live preview mode. It should create that account for us. helloworld22@gmail.com, Draftbit hello world, and then have us log in. So let's see here, unless I messed something up. Hello world. Oh, nope, maybe I messed something up. Bear with me here. Create user with password, email, password. Let's go here. There could be a bug that I totally overlooked. Like I said, we're doing this live. We're running everything that we would be running locally, user and user ID. But as you can see here, you create the email with password, and then we inline those fields here. So you would totally have the access. You can totally start using your user fields now. So bear with me. Maybe there's a bug that I totally overlooked that I didn't think about before demoing this, but that's okay. Stuff like this happens in local development mode. I expect this to work in production. Maybe I just didn't pull down, like I said, and don't really want to do that now while we're testing. But this is something that you'll be able to do. So check it out, mess around with it, and let us know what you think.
It's awesome. So maybe you could just kind of preview for us, what happens once you are able to submit username and password? Like, how does Firebase use that on the back end to store users? And then maybe how would you set up login? So I think people should expect that we can support logging in with an email and password to start. And then maybe down the road, we will support other types of authentication. But right now, it's just going to be email and password.
Yeah, so right now what we've been able to do is support logging in with email and password, like Nick said. So Firebase has its own separate authentication system, as you can see here. This is me testing literally every variation of this available, right? So when you are in here, you just see there's anonymous, there's Google, there's all sorts of things. And they've got numerous sign-in methods available, right? So email and password and anonymous. They've got things like Twitter and Google and phone number, all things that we are thinking about, but a lot of our users have really wanted just basic email and password for now, which is what we've done. And so the plan is when you do authenticate, you'll get this new row here, right? And then you'll be able to use it. So a lot of the times when you want to use a user's data in Firebase, this is the tricky part. You go into your Firestore account, right? You would create a users collection, just like we have here. You would add the document with the ID of the authentication UUID to start creating a real account. And that's what you can see here. Let me delete this one. Oh, I don't want to delete the collection, just this document. Okay, cool. Anyway, so this is exactly how you'd set up authentication in Firebase. If you're starting from scratch, you might want to create a REST endpoint that does this for you, but a user's UUID turns into a document ID called users, which is how you would do user.name, user.email, user.profile image URL. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. So then would you be able to use that UUID in requests so that you can show, you know, my restaurants, my favorite meals, my things like that, and you would just basically append all of the requests with this UUID so that you can display logged in users' experiences?
Yes, absolutely. That's what we are working on doing.
That's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, cool. And like I said, the code that we generate for that looks exactly what it needs to, right? You can go to the Firebase hooks library documentation and take a look, and it's exactly the same way. So like I said, small little bug here that I probably just didn't pull down before this call, but all of this is ready to go.
That's awesome. So yeah, we got a question about how to request access to the Firebase beta. Just visit community.draftbit.com and you can request access in the Firebase channel. You need to have your Draftbit account to log into the community, so make sure you have that first.
Yeah, so this is what our new community setup looks like. Feel free to log in, look around if you're interested in other things like custom code, and I don't know if this is actually visible or not, but anyway, Firebase is here. If you were logged out, let's see what that experience, oh, I don't know if you can see that. That's okay, but if you were logged out, you'd see a big request access button, click it, sign up, and you'll be in there in no time.
Yep, you nailed it. Sweet. Okay. Anything else that we should talk about with Firebase, Peter?
I think that's it for now, really. We went over it. I know there's so many exciting things that we are doing. Now it's just letting you all use it. I think the next exciting part is like figuring out what types of app people are building and setting things up to make that experience even easier, right? Right now, when you have to manually create an email, password, and login screen, but imagine if you can just drop in a login form that automatically hooks up your Firebase config together. Just one less thing to have to worry about, right? So we're going to start looking into ways of making this experience even easier, but not until we have people to going through and testing it first.
Yeah, I love that. Sweet. Peter, thanks so much for this great preview. Really exciting to see how far this has come.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was so much fun to walk through.
Cool. So, and by the way, if you're excited about Firebase, definitely give Draftbit a shout out on your social network of choice. The team really gets a lot of excitement from seeing people expressing excitement online. And it also helps us build up a community of users that are excited about using these features. So the team really makes a difference. I think what I'm probably going to do is continue on my coffee app build, since that's kind of how we use up the remainder of our live stream time. And there's usually some cool stuff that we can do. So Peter, I know you're a super busy dude. You're more than welcome to stay on and help me build my app. If you got to get to other things, we can let you drop, and maybe Aman and I will continue working on this app.
Yeah, I would love to stay, but I'm already being summoned to help fix some of these Firebase bugs so we can release it all to everybody. So I'm going to drop off, but only because we want to start inviting people as soon as we can. So thanks you two for having me, and look forward to seeing you all on next week's show, when I'll be back in Chicago, actually. Moving from Houston between today and this weekend, and it will be back in Chicago. So expect a new background.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. Have a great one. I'll talk to you later.
You too. See y'all.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah. All right. My screen sharing now. Hopefully my internet is going to hold up here. Okay, so for those of you who are new to our live streams, this is an app that we've been building sort of in our free time on these live streams. The idea is it's basically like a Foursquare for craft coffee. It's a personal app that I'm developing for myself to basically allow me to log in or check into coffees that I have tried and give me the ability to like rate them and score them and things like that. The build is basically just Draftbit and Airtable. My Airtable looks like this. The world tab is all of the coffees that quote unquote exist in the world. Obviously, I don't have all of them. This is just a sample database. We've got users, which is currently empty because I'm the only user, and we don't have a concept of logged in, logged out state. We have roasters. Roasters are basically manufacturers of coffee. So you can think of them as the makers, and then check-ins, which are the check-ins. Where we got to last time was I started populating this item detail page for coffees, and the way that we get to this is by searching for coffees in the search screen that we built a few live streams ago. The way that this search screen works is that I'm going to run live preview so I can actually demo this live. This search screen will basically perform an Airtable search query, which I think is called filter by formula or something like that, for the search terms that are put into the search bar. And then we also created a little decaf filter, which was a pretty cool implementation. If you want to see how we built this screen, you got to go back a few live streams to one that Donald joined us on to build the functional search bar. But if I type in, say, Colombia, it's going to return like a list of all the Colombia coffees in the database. And then if I turn on decaf, then it's going to filter out just the decaf coffees. And then maybe I click on this. I'll click on one that's not, well, I'll just click on this. So if I tap this, then it takes me to the item view screen, which is the screen that I was just on, and it displays this coffee's information, average rating, price, and manufacturer. And so that's basically where we got to. And so I want to do a couple of things with this screen. One is I want to populate this recent reviews section down below, which is currently just static text, but I want to fetch the check-ins for this coffee and display like maybe the 3 most recent. And I haven't done any of this ahead of time. Luckily, I have them on here if I get stuck with how to structure the queries. But the first thing I need to do is create a new get query that intakes the coffee ID and returns check-ins, returns 3 check-ins specifically. So I'm going to go to my data tab. I've already got my Airtable obviously added as a service. And so I'm going to create a new endpoint to, I'm going to call this get ratings or recent ratings. And so I'm going to get check-ins. And what I want to do is I want to query check-ins that match the specific world ID, which I'm getting from, is that right? I don't think that's right. I'm getting myself confused here a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's the same, the IDs that Airtable creates.
Oh, that's right. So I actually, having this ID doesn't make any sense to have, I don't think. I think this is just an auto number. I'm going to leave this here, but I'm not going to use this. So I want to basically get check-ins that match the, I think I need to add a new field here for, oh, maybe I do have it, world. Oops. I haven't paid much attention. There's a lot of Airtable work that I probably should have done ahead of time. I'm worried if I delete this. If I delete this, I think something will happen.
Maybe you can hook up the specific IDs on that, because the ID numbers are already there in that column. So
yeah, I'm worried though that this number, like this is not, man, this
the exact
so slow.
representation.
Yeah, I don't think this is the, I don't think this is like the UUID of the coffee. I think this is like something that I made, which corresponds to this auto number ID, which is kind of not the best way to do this. What I really want to do is I want to return the UUID of this record. And for that, I think that I need to, I'm gonna deprecate this and call it world ID old. I think what I want to do is I want to add a field on the world tab. So basically the way Airtable works is you define a lookup field. So in this case, I want to look up against world. I don't know why it's called world 2. I probably have world 1 somewhere. And then I'm going to add lookup fields, and I'm going to look up the ID of that coffee. And I don't think I need to look up anything else. But this is how you add lookup fields. And it looks like not that many of these check-ins were actually linked to the coffee, so maybe I should just go do that real quick. I don't know how actually linked. So, well, this is 1, and then what's this coffee? Is this coffee number 1? We'll have at least 1, so we can at least test this out. We'll build this and we'll see if we have to figure it out later. So basically what I want to do is I want to pass in the, I'm gonna go back so I can kind of talk my way through this. And Maman, you can tell me if I'm thinking about the right or wrong. I basically want to grab the ID of this coffee from the world tab, and I want to pass it into the query that fetches this list of check-ins as the world ID. And so if I filter on that world ID, then I should get all ratings. And then I'll probably want to do something like sort them chronologically, but I'm not worried that much about that right now.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. So I'm going to get recent reviews, check-ins, and then always super handy to go reference the API documentation for Airtable. And I want to return only the check-ins that match that coffee ID. And so I'm looking for like I think I want like a filter. Is that right, Aman? Am I looking for like a filter formula?
I think you can map it through the array part, but since you're getting a single record, it should have that field, so you can directly map that field from like in the check-ins table. It has a field for the world ID. So when you're fetching the single record of coffee, you can directly be able to get that.
Okay. And what the syntax is always what messes up. So it's
Maybe let's just pass the first ID of the check-in and just see what kind of result we are getting.
is that even the right? Why am I? Oh, it's this ID I want. Okay, so this should give me this first record in the check-ins table, which is not necessarily what I want. This is the ID of the check-in. But what I actually want is I want to filter all of the check-ins against the world ID, wherever that is.
Yeah, it's world 2 and that like just be, yeah. This is an array, so yeah.
Okay.
I think we have to fetch the whole array, like the whole field.
So is it something like, I mean, it's like something like world 2 equals, but we need like a formula, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to use this filter by formula. Okay, so I think it's something like this. I may have to reference the other time we did this. All right, I'm gonna back out and look at what we did for the search. Filter by formula equals.
If you can use the find operator, I think adding this condition, the first part, like find the world ID or all the check-ins on which it exists. I mean, that makes sense or not?
The find?
Since we just want the ID of the world 2, so we can just filter it by the formula like find it by the World2 ID and just fetches the ID of the record.
Will that give me the whole list, or will that just give me like the first result?
I think it should give you the first result because there's only one ID that exists in the array. Let me search how they.
Can you send me in the private chat the like formula that you think it is? I need to actually, I realize I need to refresh this connection because I created something that's kind of weird about how this works. Like if you add new fields to your backend, then you probably need to refresh your data service. I'm gonna refresh my screen. Okay, so maybe what I should do is just do a simpler query and build up from there. First thing I'll do is return check-ins for some ID. We'll go back to basics here. Okay, and let's just replace this fetch down here. And we'll just going to put this test value here for now. Rating. What else do we have in this table that I can use? My rating. Maybe I'll put in some tasting notes.
Writing formulas in Airtable is harder than writing code, I have to say.
Say that again?
I'm just saying that writing formulas creating formulas for Airtable is harder than writing code. Because yeah, a lot of fields doesn't, like the syntax doesn't match up.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, their API is so powerful, but it's so easy to get confused. It's really hard to do a live stream with Airtable because you spend so much time trying to think it out, and I get pressured when I'm.
Since we are already fetching the data from it, maybe we can just attach a field to the ID we want to map and just see what result it gives to us. I don't think we should create a new endpoint for it right now, because
that would be another way to do this. Would be to, well, actually, you couldn't. I was going to say we could just attach the check-ins to the world, but we would have, once we had more than one check-in, it would be an array, and you can't return multiple items in an array yet. I'm also a little bit confused because I know I'm returning a valid query because I've got data coming in here, but then, so like my rating 5, I should see this in here, and I'm not. And so I'm wondering if there's something going on. I seem to remember someone telling me that like we were having some problems with multiple fetches on one screen, and I might be trapped in that purgatory right now, which may be how we have to end this live stream because we're coming up on the end anyway. But so I probably tackled the wrong implementation for this live stream. I think what I should have done was to work on this check-in functionality, to pass this item's ID through this check-in button to take me to a check-in screen where I can create new check-ins. So real quick, let's just see if I can connect up this functionality. So I would want to navigate to, oops, that's wrong.
yeah.
I was messing around with custom functions earlier and I forgot that I had it set up. To navigate to, I think I want to go to the coffee info screen. And I want to pass the world ID of the coffee, which I think is this variable. This comes from the ID that was passed into the screen in the first place. So I'm just going to basically pass it again through this button, and this should work. I should at least be able to navigate to the new screen. Yeah. Okay. So this is where we will start the next live stream whenever we do the community build, is that we will work on this check-in screen and create new check-ins for and associate them with the coffees in the world tab. And that's where we'll kick off the next live stream. Cool. We did something.
We learned about 8 table
we didn't do
formulas.
Nothing. Yeah. Cool. So just real quick, Steve asked, it would be interesting to see how Xano works to simplify your API backend experience with Draftbit. We're spending a lot of time, especially Aman is spending a lot of time with other backend services that are not Airtable and that are not Firebase. So Backendless is one we spend a lot of time with. I know that our team is looking at how AWS Amplify is working. They're looking at how Xano is working. They're looking at how Bubble CMS is working, because the next thing that is going to be worked on after the custom code beta gets underway is figuring out how you can bring your own auth into Draftbit from an external service so that you can, yep, Superbase, thanks, Colin. Bringing your own auth into a Draftbit app. And then if you can do that, then that's kind of like the final thing that you really need in order to be able to read and write data from backends and make them useful for applications. So those things are coming. I'm going to plug community.draftbit.com one more time, because we are I mentioned already the custom code beta test that's underway. You can still apply to be in that, but it's underway. The Firebase beta test is about to be underway. You can apply to that one from community.draftbit.com. And then finally, the auth and async storage investigation work is underway, meaning we're interviewing users to learn about how they want to use auth and async storage for their Draftbit apps. And so there's also an apply button in the community for auth and async storage. It's not a beta test. We haven't worked on the feature yet. It's simply a request to be interviewed so you can share with our team how you want to use auth and async storage. So those three things, custom code, Firebase, and auth and async storage are the three beta processes that are underway. And if you want to be a part of any of those, definitely go to community.draftbit.com.
Yeah,
Steve, I
is
see
willing to.
Sorry, go ahead, Aman.
No, I was just saying the same thing, that Steve is willing to build the coffee app and try it with Xeno. So,
Steve, why don't you hit me up on Twitter? I'm just at Nick Selman. Why aren't our names displayed on this thing? I don't really. And we'll talk. It'd be fun to have someone work on this with me. Awesome, guys. Well, Aman, thanks so much. Thanks to Peter, who was here earlier showing us about Firebase. And thanks to you all for attending. This has been really fun. And oh, real quick, we're off next week. Should have mentioned that at the jump. I might surprise you with a live stream on Tuesday, but we're off next week because my dad's in town and he's going to be hanging out with my 6-month-old. And I don't want to miss it. So I'm taking a few days off to hang out with them. My dad's finally vaccinated and I'm super excited to have him come. So maybe see you Tuesday. I might spring this on you, but if not, we'll see you the week after next. All right. Thanks, everyone.